Welcome to Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing, one of the fastest growing real estate investing podcasts in the world. What if you could learn from experienced real estate investors? Find out what got them to where they are now. Get insight into their daily habits and take these insights to inspire your own growth. Each episode, Jonathan Green shares an in-depth look at the mindful approach to real estate investing. Jonathan is a lifelong real estate investor and the founder of Streamline, a data-driven, investor-friendly, independent real estate brokerage located in Madison, New Jersey. Whether you're looking to start from scratch, get to the next level, or just for a straightforward and honest approach to real estate investing, this is the free mentorship program you can take with you anywhere. Now, here's Jonathan.
Thanks for showing up for another episode of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing. My guest today is Mackenzie Grate, aka Mac of all trades. We're talking interior design, investment properties, short-term rentals. We're going to talk about designing investment properties to generate passive income. Mac's going to tell you how she did it from beginning to now. This is episode 296 of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing with my guest, Mackenzie Grate. Mackenzie is an interior designer, investor, and New York State licensed real estate agent. She specializes in helping individuals create incredible spaces that transform their lives. She's also known as Mac of all trades. Mac, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk to you. Obviously, we know each other a little bit, but this is going to be great to get your perspective here on the show because you haven't been in the world of real estate investing for that long, right?
Actually, I've been in it about 10 years.
Wow, 10? That's 10 already? Yeah.
I know. That's crazy to think about. But yeah, 10 years ago, I bought my first long-term rental. Started off slow, but I've been doing it ever since.
Yeah, I'm going to back into your history because I know that's kind of like where everybody starts. But I really want to get, you're so focused on the design part now as well. What do you think people are making mistakes with design, whether it be for their own houses or generally people are excited about building income off their design and short-term rentals, which I know you have experience with. Where are people making mistakes in the design aspect?
I think the biggest mistake is people just overspending, getting really caught up in the most expensive tile that they love for themselves, right, but keeping the bigger picture in mind of like, it's either going to be a long-term rental or it's going to be a short-term rental that does need to look good, but at the same time, it also needs to pay for itself.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I've always said, it's like when somebody goes to do a flip and they put flip finishes on and then it doesn't sell and they're like, oh, well, I'll just rent it. It's like, but you spent way too much to make it a rental now. It doesn't translate. So don't you think that going in, you really have to at least have your first game plan, like, hey, I'm going for short-term rental. But of course, if you miss on a short-term rental, you're kind of good in the flip market if you could sell, because those are at least comparable finishes. Maybe not, you don't need, a sauna at your house, although it's nice.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's always good to have a backup plan. And there's always, it's important to look at certain areas that you can hack a little bit, what I mean? But yeah, I think sometimes people just get so into the idea of they want to create a beautiful space, which I can fall victim to. Let me tell you, I'm a Libra, it happens. But oftentimes that's where they get caught up, is like in those finishes and towards the end when they just want to make it look super beautiful, which I get, but they just end up overspending, splurging, and then they're left with a product that either they're having a hard time renting out long-term, or if they do rent it out long-term, it's going to get damaged by the tenants. So hold on to it for a year, 2 years, and then decide to sell it. It's not going to be the same finished product. And oftentimes, too, people will go into like the trends when they spend a lot of money, like something very of the moment. So if you end up holding on to it for a couple of years, there's no guarantee that fabulous tile, which I love a statement tile, will still be in style. So I'm thinking of accent walls right away. And I love an accent wall, but if you do 5 of them in different colors, I don't know how long that's going to last, unless that's the vision of your whole property. Yeah. And I think it's tough too, because you do want to do stuff that is like on trend alongside the location, the region, and what's in style there. But at the same time, you still do need to figure out something that'll make your property stand out. So it's finding that delicate balance.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up location because I've found with any design, I mean, honestly, even if it's a weekend house or something, but especially for short-term rentals, the locality of where you are is really important for your design. Like if you're looking in Asheville, you want to play up that kind of mountain thing. And for like where you're looking and I'm looking and where you have properties up in Catskill area, like that's a different vibe than, Austin, Texas. You can't do the same things and think that they'll work. So how do you deal with that when you're looking at the local and then your spend if someone doesn't have much to spend? I agree with you with the first thing you said. I think people can do design and renovations much more affordably than they think they can.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's one of those things where when it comes to spending, there's certain pieces you want to spend more on because it's going to get a lot of wear and tear. So like you want a good table if you have a short-term rental because people are going to be using it non-stop. You want a good couch, but you also want a couch that has like fabric that's durable, washable. But some stuff, guess what? Amazon, baby, that's where you get a lot of it.
Yeah.
And there's some stuff that you're going to have to constantly replace because people are going to use it way harder than they would their own stuff. So you don't want to go too high in on that, but you do want to make sure that even something like the toilet bowl brush, right? Yeah. They've got a cute version and they've got an ugly version. Go for the cute version. It's like $1 more. But just splurge for those little things and overall that'll add up.
Yeah, I feel that just that concept, I think, is really important for people who are getting into their first short-term rental because sometimes when they get to things like what they're going to have in the closet or what they're going to have in the kitchen, they're like, oh, I don't know why someone would need a colander. It's like, well, because they make pasta. Like you have to have one, but on the other hand, you don't need a pasta maker, but these decisions, when you look at the cost and it's like nice spoons or ugly spoons and it's, 11 cents. I mean, just, get the better spoons to your point.
Yeah. And I think you have to figure out who you're going to be renting it to and who your target audience is. So like, depending upon my property, my smaller ones, I intentionally do not overstock the kitchen area because I don't want them staying and cooking. But if I have a big house that's clearly going to be hosting groups, then you do need a really well-stocked kitchen because there are going to be lots of family gathering meals, that sort of a thing. So you kind of want to figure out like who's going to rent your space and then make those decisions according to that.
Yeah, and I think you can kind of curate your description around that. If you're walk to town and there's lots of cool restaurants in the town, like you're basically designing the stay to push them to go into town. If it's a full getaway and then the closest restaurant or supermarket's 30 minutes away, they're going to cook. So you better have a nice kitchen and all this stuff. You feel like people think about that enough? I feel like sometimes they're just looking about, hey, let me get one room super Instagrammable, but they forget about kind of the mechanics of any renter and what they need and not running out of toilet paper and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the newer investors, definitely that's a learning curve that you're going to have no matter what. I think a lot of the older investors have got their systems down or they know at this point like what's necessary and what's not. But yeah, it's definitely one of those things where it just really depends on the experience level.
Yeah. And I also agree with what you said about knowing your avatar. I've always found that that's really important. When you were getting your first properties that you were going to do short-term rentals at, were you your example of the avatar? Because a lot of people that I've talked to use themselves as the avatar because that's who you know best. So it's like, well, let me just focus on this. I would come here. So it's kind of an easier hedge and instead of trying to like appease everyone, which you can't do.
Yeah, so I was fortunate enough that my first short-term rental I did after having several clients who did them. So I never planned on getting into the short-term rental business. My goal was long-term rental, easy, but then I saw some clients really being successful, super lucrative, and then I stumbled upon this one property. And at this point in time, I still lived in the city. So I didn't have a place of my own to stay up there when I was selling houses, doing that sort of thing. So I stumbled across this property and my initial thought was I will convert the upstairs to a place that I can sleep when I'm upstate. And then downstairs I'll rent out as a short-term rental. The game plan changed. It ended up being the whole thing as a short-term rental, but I started with that design in mind and then it kind of grew from there. And I had the experience of watching others do it to know like, okay, these are some things I should do. These are some things I should steer clear of. And that helped a lot. For sure. Yeah.
I mean, I know you host meetups, I do as well. And the one thing I'd say is if you want to do short-term rentals and you don't have any friends who do short-term rentals, you're in trouble You're either going to hire a guru and kind of follow a system that may not apply to your geography, or overspend, like we said. The best thing to do before you do it is just know other people who are doing it.
And talk to them.
Yeah.
So I just had a meetup like a couple of weeks ago, and the stories that people share about what happens at their short-term rental are just blow your mind. You know what I mean? Like, the person had someone who committed suicide in theirs, and it was like, okay, you're not, there's no book for how to handle this. So if you have a circle of friends you can call who are doing the same thing, like, what do I do in this situation? People will have ideas at least to get you started. If you're dealing with like a difficult guest, trying to get them out, that sort of a thing, or a bad review, Airbnb can be sometimes challenging to get a hold of and like to fight your case, sort of a thing. So it's definitely necessary. And I always offer these meetups to, especially my beginner investors.
Yeah.
But I do worry about the ones who don't come, because I'm like, oh, I don't think you fully understand what you're getting into. And this is kind of like an opportunity for you to really understand that it's not just, I have a cute house on the weekends that I'm going to get to use. I'll rent it out sometimes and it'll pay for itself. Like, that's not what this is. It's
and also, big difference than watching YouTube or taking, a $399 12 video course, because now it's two-way. Once you have two-way, you can follow up with an answer. Oh, now you can go deeper on something and then really understand it, instead of getting like a broad overview, but not really knowing what to do, when the crap hits the fan, which happens a lot in short-term rental.
Yeah. And it's also about resources, right? Like sharing cleaners, sharing handymen.
Yeah.
Well, my place, like the hot water heater blew out and I have to relocate my guests. I now have 10 different people I can immediately hop on the phones with and be like, hey, do you have a spot tonight? Can I send my person over? And then they do the same in return. It's that sort of, you need that community for sure.
Yeah, that's a really interesting one. I don't really remember talking about that much. I've talked about it in the context of people who own multiple short-term rentals of their own in the same area. But yeah, knowing other people in the area, or if you're in an area where at least if there's like a small hotel, you make a relationship with them for those just in case moments. You can't think that there's never going to be a time where your guest isn't going to be displaced for either pests, animals, smells, air or heat. There's always something, water. That's a really good point. It comes up, and I think that people would do better to kind of have a contingency plan for pretty much anything that their friends have told them will happen. That's the only way to find out.
Yeah. And honestly, a lot of my clients, they end up buying so one of my best friends for years, he turned one of his properties into an Airbnb this past summer. And then I sold the property next to his.
That's the best.
To another friend of mine. So they both have Airbnbs. The property's attached. Literally, they help each other all the time.
That's awesome.
That friendship and relationship blossom. And they're talking about putting like trails between the two places. I'm like, that's what it's about for sure. People are afraid that, it's oversaturated or there's too much competition. I don't buy into that scarcity mindset. Like,
me neither.
There's always been rental properties. People always need to escape cities and get out into nature. Now you are going to have to run it a lot more efficiently, and it does be styled. Like, you can't just throw up anything anymore like they did back in the day. But it's definitely, there's still always room for opportunity, but you also have to know that it is going to be just that. It's work. You're going to have your phone on, you know what I mean? And you're going to sometimes get messages when you're in the middle of dinner. And that's why you have, again, friends where it's like, you're my co-host. I, for some reason, didn't pick up, and it pops to your other friend and they help you out, and vice versa, sort of a thing. So
yeah, I mean, it's an asset. All real estate investing and buying, you're buying an asset, so you can't be unavailable for the asset. There could be a fire. Wouldn't you want to know? It's just one of those things where this is the way it is. You have to know these things when they happen. And having other people involved, co-hosts, things like that can really reduce the potential for a major fail.
The other thing I like to do is have people partner with their strengths. So like, I have a client who's a good friend of mine. He handles all of the tech for my STO. That's his thing. That's his business. Yeah. And then in exchange, I handle all of the design for all of his. So we have these opposite skill sets, but we support each other. And finding those sorts of partners really helps you to grow your business a lot more efficiently.
Yeah, and I just love a good barter. I love a skill set barter, fair trade for each. It just makes things work really well because you're both trying to help the same asset in a different way, you know?
Definitely.
Yeah, well, let's go back. Let's talk about the first property and then get into how you scaled up, because it was interesting and you started going pretty quickly once you got going. I think you got really into it.
Yeah. My first investment property was a long-term rental. It was in Kingston, New York. And I didn't have a car at the time. I lived in Brooklyn. I had a friend drive me up. We toured some different houses. I ended up buying the first one that I saw. Cause I knew that was the one that I kind of had my eye on and like really was tracking. It was pretty quick to get it up and running. It rented it immediately. I did learn the hard lesson about getting a quality property manager. Didn't learn that lesson until like 2 years later when you go to do the turnover. And then I was like, oh, okay.
Everybody learns that lesson multiple times, hopefully less, but it happens. Yeah.
But yeah, and I was working a day job here. I was an assistant principal at a middle school. So all of my overtime I would just take and save up, and then I would use it to buy the property. And then after I got that first one, it was the same thing. It was back to like saving up my overtime to buy the down payment for the next property.
Yeah. So, I mean, you were really committing to working more, to get more, to buy more properties. Like that was the main goal.
Oh yeah, that was the hustle. Those were the hustle years for sure.
Yeah, but I like that because, you know, there's so many people who are into the FIRE movement, but I think they're looking at it wrong. Like you still have to make sure that you're building your income to get there. You can't like get one rental and think like, hey, I've made it. You know, $1,200 a month is it. You know, this is it. Yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm used to it. It doesn't faze me. You know, like it's like you really have to build up and you have to hustle and work hard so you can build more money or get better salary. If, you know, obviously education, there's not huge raises coming flying at you. It'd be nice if there was. I work for the government and it was like, let's look at these little small raises that they give you. But yeah, so you have to find alternative ways to keep going.
And I think the other thing too, I see a lot with people who reach out to me trying to get started. Some people are just looking for this crazy, insane deal for their first one. They're like, I'm not going to buy it unless. I always laugh when the people call me and they're like, okay, so you're an agent, but I'm looking for off-market listings. If you could send those to me, that'd be great. I'm ready to buy tomorrow. Right. It's like, that's just not how it works. First off, even if I had a great off-market listing, no offense, I'm not sending it to you, someone I don't have a relationship with.
Yeah, who doesn't have cash. Like, thanks for the off-market. Yeah.
My clients that like have offered me over and over.
That's just they went on Bigger Pockets for a day and they're like, okay, so they ask for off market, they don't have cash and they want to do like an FHA. You're like, okay, these things all don't come together. You're up against like serious investors in the off market.
Yeah, no, it's one of those things like starting investing is a trade-off. It is a sacrifice. You're going to have to make sacrifices. It's not easy. The biggest sacrifice you're going to have to do is overcome your fear. And like that is something that you're either going to do or you're not. And I do have some people who have done that and have gone on to buy multiple properties and their lives have changed. And then I have some people who are still talking, and 10 years later about how they're going to do it. And, oh, Matt, can you help me? Like, and it's like, I can't help you until you help yourself, until you
get off the fence.
And like, yeah. And even if you overspend on your first property, I know this is a controversial take, but even if you overspend, the point is to get in the game.
Oh, I agree.
You are figuring things out, realize, what you need to do differently moving forward, how you need to maneuver stuff. Like, it's just, you just got to buy a place. There's no other way around it other than jumping in.
I think it's great advice. And I think that people should buy something that's closer to done in the beginning if they have no experience and they're tight on budget. Like, instead of saying like, well, I want to get a really good deal and then I'll put money in. Why don't you get not as good deal and put no money in so it's operational right away if you want to rent it either long-term, short-term, or mid-term, because then there's just less to worry about. Like a brand new person embarking on their first thing and then trying to do, a renovation with contractors that they don't know, that it's just never going to happen. You're going to waste so much time instead of having something where you can close and like just get the listing up, even if you don't do well at it.
Yeah. Even if there's like a small margin of return, it's just getting that process going. And that's the other thing is people don't realize it's not just about the cash flow at the end of the month. I think a lot of new investors, that's where they focus all of their energy. Cash flow. Like that is one means. And honestly, now I don't really invest for cash flow. Like, does it happen? Sure. Yeah. And that's great.
Yeah.
But there's so many other things that are more important to me as I build up my overall portfolio over time. The cash flow is like not top priority.
Yeah, I've always been an appreciation investor, but I grew up being able to because I grew up with a dad who was a cash investor and I was a cash investor. So that was fortunate for me. But I call myself an asset hunter now because I'm looking at the asset. I'm not like I'd like to make, cash flow. It's great, but I'd much prefer appreciation because then it's never going to stop going up, or an area that's developing that the area is going to go up. And hey, now I can get, a couple deals. I think that's just smarter strategy. And I think that a lot of times new investors are coaxed into kind of doing like this best case scenario thing. And then they're like, oh, I'll get it for so low. I'll do an amazing job. And then it'll come out and I'll refi out, I'll do a burr and I'll crush it in STR. And but they don't know how to do any of that, so it can't happen. It like everything that they think is going to happen is not going to happen at all.
Well, and that never happens on a deal in general, even for the best investor. Like that idea that you're going to be able to tick all those boxes. I look at it as like, one of those old school Nintendo games, the Mario game, where you're like running along and you're trying to get as many coins. You're not going to get all the coins. Guess what?
Right. Yeah, you can't go back. You can every time go back just to get the one coin that's like underneath the brick. Like just leave the coin.
Do the best you can, get as many as you can, but get the flag.
Right. Yeah, even if you don't jump to the top of the flag, like you hit the middle of the flag, you still got the flag and you go to the next level. Relax. I mean, come on. God, I hope everyone gets our references on this because it's a really good one. Yeah. So after the first long-term rental, were you thinking when you were saving up, were you thinking just long-term rental again? Because was short-term rental even in your mind at the time?
Yeah, no, it definitely, I was thinking long-term. And at that point, because I hadn't yet had my first turnover,
I
was like, this is easy. I'm like, I just sit in the rent checks. Like, this is great. I don't have to do much. Yeah, so at that point, I really thought I was going to buy only long-term rentals.
Yeah, you thought you were a long-term rental investor and you were getting passive income.
Yep. And don't get me wrong, I still, if the right long-term rental comes along, I'm not going to say no.
Yeah.
But there got to a point too also, in my career, the goal was to leave. The goal was to build financial independence so that I could leave. And that would have taken forever if I had just done long-term rental after long-term rental. Like it did at a certain point feel confident enough to jump into the STR space to expedite that ability to become financially independent.
Yeah.
So I made the leap.
If we go back to your point about just buy something, there's excess to that now because you can do long-term, midterm, or short-term. You really have 3 different options that you can do right away. So you don't have to stick to just the LTR scale because midterm rentals will really do it anywhere, and short-term's pretty good. Maybe not up there. Yeah.
Hot take. I was going to say, I'm not sold on the midterm rental idea. I hear it everywhere, and I'm sure there's probably some markets where it's really great.
Yeah.
But at least the market that I'm in, no, there's not really much of a market for that at all.
Yeah, because the traditional original was like, hey, be near a hospital. But yeah, for upstate, Catskills, upstate, where we're talking about and where you work and where I work on the weekends, it's like, yeah, I've been questionable about that. I was like, in a worst case scenario, like you could try it, or you could try to do like an artist residency thing for 30 days. That something like that might work. But yeah, you have to know your market and understand what works instead of, putting all of your eggs into the basket of MTR and then being like, oops, that didn't work out.
And you have to know your state laws. Like in New York State, anyone longer than 30 days is officially a tenant, whether you have a lease or not. So like if I'm doing a 90-day, they're a tenant. They've got tenant rights, and it's very hard to get a tenant out in this state. Yep. To me, I don't see it working where I'm at. And I'm also very wary of the latest trends. You know what I mean? Like whatever they're promoting as like, this is the new way to go. It's like, I don't know. Maybe for some, maybe I'm not denying that some people are killing it at the midterm.
Yeah.
I just don't know of any of them personally. And I network with a lot of real estate.
Those are good points. It might not be the state or the market for it. So it doesn't make sense to kind of put it in there. But for people who are listening in any state, they can think like, hey, at least there's 3 options out there for a property, other than just flipping. Like you can rent it 3 different ways. There's 3 different slices of the pie that maybe long-term rental adds up to more in your market, and it's less work. So great, you don't have to furnish it. There's pros and cons for all of them, but that's kind of the cool thing about getting properties, and that you've found as you're, building your properties back then. It's like, okay, well, maybe I'll stay up there. No, it's not going to work. I'm going to do short-term rentals in both. How do you decide as you go? Is it just kind of a feel of what's working and what's going on in your life at the time?
Yeah. So I usually go into a property with a plan, and the plan only changes if a life event changes.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think that's the thing too with people investing and like getting advice in the different types, is they really need to figure out who they are as an investor, where they are at their life, what they need in their life.
Yeah.
Because that really is the main thing. I struggle when I have clients or friends who come up to me and are like, I want to buy a place. Mackenzie, tell me what to buy. You know this better than anyone else. Like, just help me out. And it's like, there's so many, my preferences are entirely different than yours. Yeah. My risk assessment is entirely different than yours. My risk assessment is entirely different than when I first started.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I continue to evolve into what I want or need. And I'm sure as an investor 10 years down the line, I'm going to be completely different than I am at this moment.
Yeah.
So it's hard to have those conversations with people for them to really understand it, because I think a lot of times when people go to invest or like are looking for a plan on a property or like give me my buy box, they're looking at it as though there is one right answer, and there's never one right answer in general, but especially not for anyone at any given time. Like you have to do that work to figure out what is it that I'm looking for me in my life? What are my goals? What do I feel comfortable with? What interests me? Like, is this a project
exactly
or is this a project that's going to be a nightmare and I'm just doing it because I've been told that I should be doing it?
Right. Like don't buy a cabin if you think it's icky. Like if you're like, oh, this feels old. Like don't get it. You're not going to like having that as an asset. You're going to think everything's wrong with it. Those are really good points. Hey, it's Jonathan. I hope you're enjoying this episode with Mackenzie Grate. And if you need design help and you're sending out a red alert, go to Moat, M-O-A-T, interiordesigns.com, or follow Mackenzie on Instagram at MacofAllTradesNY. Let's get back to the show. We're both licensed realtors, and I think you have to be even more careful, because sometimes people are like, well, how's this neighborhood? I mean, I can't tell you how the neighbor is. I don't know what you like. I don't know where you grow up. I don't know what you're comfortable with. I don't know what you're comfortable with, where, if you want to live there, where you're, where you're walking, how close to things you want to be, what you want out of a neighborhood. I don't know. It's different for all of us. And as you said, from one year to the next, for us personally, that can change. So what someone likes one year, they maybe don't like another, but at least you can get to the basis. And one more thing is, you brought up something that made me think, because I'm always telling people, don't be emotional about real estate because you'll make bad decisions. But when you were saying that, I was thinking, like, you can't be detached, though. You have to have some emotions involved in the process, like that you actually, like, I'm obsessed with real estate. I'm sure I love it. I love houses. I love design. It's like, why do you want that to be your investment portal if you don't even have a little bit of that?
Yeah. No, definitely. I do think you have to some way be emotionally involved, like not crazy emotional. Like you have to be willing, you have to be willing. Like so for example, I'm in a flip. Okay. My dad jokes it's the flop. I mean, the house turned out beautiful, but I've been holding on to it for 2 years, and I've been trying to sell it for 2 years, and the market took a little situational tank. And, I consider myself a buy and hold type of gal. I get attached to my properties, especially as a designer. But in this case, I'm like, I'm ready for this thing to be gone.
It's run its course. Yeah. Right.
So am I emotionally attached to it anymore? No, I am not.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it's good for people to know that, there's a level to everything. For me, I always used it as a way to say, like, you're just going to make bad decisions. You're going to bid too much and then regret it. Your classic buyer who wins. And then you're like, hey, you won. And they're like, oh, I didn't really want to win. Like, what did the person under me bid? It's like, this isn't fun anymore.
One of my pet peeves, the question when buyers ask, they're like, well, why are they selling?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It has no relevance to you if it's working for you or not.
They always think like, oh, there was a horrendous, incident. Like we would all know about that. Things happen. It's a house.
Someone died in. If I'm getting a great deal on it, I would.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
That's the thing. They want the great deal till they get the great deal, and then they're like, "Oh, why is this such a good deal?" It's like, okay,
Yeah.
I mean, that's the new investor. And if I go back quickly to something you were saying about that, you have these friends who've been at it 10 years and never made an investment. Are those the people who don't go to the meetups? Because I bet it is. That's usually what I say. If you've been doing it for that long, it's because you just don't know anyone.
They're not doing it. Let's be clear. They're not doing
Right.
it. They're talking about it.
But if your friends are all doing it and that's who you like, you're going to do it because you're like, just like you were saying, you didn't get into short-term rentals, but now you have clients. They're like, oh, you're crushing it. It's why like accountants end up investing. They see all these people on their tax returns crushing it and then depreciating the assets. And they're like, why don't I have any real estate? It's like, why don't realtors have more properties? Like most realtors don't even own property. You have access to it all the time. Get property.
That to me is crazy. Yeah. I've seen a lot. So I was in education, right? And I was able to build my portfolio on the side and leave education. It's a lot of my teaching friends who I taught with for years, great people, but they're always like, but I just don't have enough money. And I'm like, I did it. You know what I mean? It's not about having money. It's not about them not paying the profession enough, although that's true.
Yeah, right.
It's about like how you're spending your money.
Right.
Are you saving?
Allocation.
Are you working on the side? Are you doing the overtime? And if you are doing that overtime, are you actually holding on to that money? Do you want it bad enough to buy that first place? Because once you buy that first place, that is a game changer. Then you're like, oh, you have this realization, I can do this. It may not be easy. It may be a long game, but like once you get that first one under your belt, you're like, it's possible.
Yeah, I think it's great. And I think I sometimes I think of education in line with like police and firefighters, the beginning ones as they're getting their first salaries, because you have a very steady job. If you work for a government organization, a county organization, a state organization, you have steady income. So you're qualifiable. Very, very lendable. It's very steady. There's no chance that the business is going out of business. So like, even if you're making 45 grand a year, if you're building up, you're a very steady and very good option for lenders. So you're going to be able to get your best terms based on that. And I think that's where people, again, maybe they don't want to allocate their funds, or they want to go to the bars every night. You're not going to get a property if you go to bars every night. You're just not going to have enough money left if you're making, 40 grand a year or something.
Yeah. And I think also just people are constantly looking for reassurance. They need someone to say you're doing the right thing. And I just, as I get older, I realize that's not how life works. You're the only one who can reassure. And I remember, so I was married when I bought my first place. And I remember bending over backwards to convince him too that this was going to be a great investment. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, God, I hope this works out because I'll never hear the end of it if it doesn't.
Right.
But I get it. Like everyone is looking for that reassurance because no one wants to really fail, even though failure is a part of building anything that's worth building. But you know what? The ultimate reassurance is only going to come from you doing it, getting out there, succeeding, failing. I mean, look, I'm 10 years in and I've got this flip-flop situation going on.
Yeah.
Is it a fail on the books? Yes, it is. But am I still going to invest after this? Of course,
it's a great thing for people to know, but it's still an asset. So the asset still exists. Where the value is compared to where you got it with the renovation, that can go up and down depending on the market, but you still have an asset. It's just one that's not selling right now, but you own the land, you own the real estate, you own the option to rent it any way that you want. So you still have something there. It's not like your stock just went to zero. You're like, wow, that was awesome. It was 12,000. Now it's zero. It's not. The value is good. It's just about, can you trade it?
Yeah. And being able to hold on to it. Like that's the thing that you learn. And I knew this lesson before. But like these past few years have been a reminder, is like, you need to have the ability to carry your properties and to be able to hold on to them during the tough times.
Yeah. I think all of us as investors get those reminders. Even if we don't have an ego, you just get good at it. So you're like, I thought I would crush every flip. And I had this flip in Montclair that ended up taking like almost 2 years to sell. And I just like mismanaged things in very small ways. Like I priced it too low somehow because I was expectant of huge overbids. And then I repriced it. I was just like, it was just one of those properties, like what you're in now. Is like, but it looked amazing. it eventually, like, I probably broke even on it even after all that time, but I still love that property. You're still going to love this property. It's just one that is just like, as you said, it's just a reminder that it's just not going to be easy. It's just not always easy,
I'll love it when I drive by and it's sold and I wave at it.
Yeah, right. It's going to really be special then.
Everyone does look at like the listing and stuff and they're like, that's so beautiful. It's right on the realtor. I can't believe it's not selling. And it's just like,
I know which one it is. I've looked at it too. So. But I mean, this is real estate in a nutshell. And for people who are getting new, I think that we're providing them great advice through you to say, like, one, get to the meetups, because those meetups are going to be where those people are who are going to give you that confirmation without someone just saying, like, yeah, it looks great, when they don't know anything. Your family and friends, if they don't invest in real estate, that's just going to be a bad echo chamber for you. Yes, my mom said yes, but she didn't know anything. She's never owned a property. So that's not who you want to listen to. But if you just go to the meetups monthly for a year, you won't need that. You'll get it without asking for it, don't you think?
Yeah. And I would say it's usually the opposite with friends and families. Most of them say, no, don't do it.
Overcautious. Yeah, right. Don't do anything with your life at all.
And that is so, and it comes from a place of love.
Yeah.
Definitely genuine love. But
Yeah.
to me, that is like the worst thing that can happen to you, is like if you're listening to that over and over. Yeah. You just got to get out there and be surrounded by people who are doing it, who will be vulnerable and share the challenges, but at the same time are still getting back up and doing it again. Yeah.
Yeah. And your family and friends will be super pumped for you when you do it and then see why you did it. I've had a lot of people on the show who were first generation here, and their parents, because they grew up with more of a scarcity mindset, they didn't want them to leave their very good, high paying job to get into real estate. And they just had the thing. And then once they proved themselves, parents were so proud, like they didn't realize that it was going to translate like that. But to our point, what we keep bringing back is you got to get around those people who've already done it. So, like, hey, I always think of it this way. Like if you're at a meetup or you're at an event, even like a conference, and then you see someone and they tell you their story, and like, I mean, they kind of look like me, like I can do that. Their trajectory and where they've worked, they never had, 250,000 jobs, That's why I think, like, if educators are listening, this is an ideal opportunity to say, like, you can do it. And you can do it. You don't need a giant salary, but you have to be disciplined enough to want it. It's not going to just fall into your lap.
Yeah. And you're not, the first property isn't the sexiest property. Like my first property was a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom, small working class town, working class neighborhood. That was it.
Right.
Is it gorgeous? I mean, would I live there if I had to? Of course. It was like the house that I grew up in Indiana. Like it definitely, but is it my dream house? No.
My first flip, I hate so much. I loved it when I lived there. It was in Plantation, Florida, like in a development. Like every house looked exactly the same, all different shades of ecru. And, it was nice. I like you were saying, I would live there if I had to. It was no problem. And it was a good price. And I probably made $25,000. And, this is a long time ago. I'm old, in like a year and a half. So great deal. But like, it would just be it's just so boring and vanilla. I didn't have the pizzazz. You couldn't do anything anyway, because the HOA you could do on the inside. But I still look back and I'm like, that was awesome, but I don't ever want to see it again.
Yeah. Honestly, if I could find another deal like my first house, I would scoop it up now this second.
I would get your first house deal. I wouldn't get mine. It's just too boring. I don't like HOAs anyway, but yeah. Well, let's kind of go over to your design part too, because it's played a big role in kind of what you've learned and obviously helped you so much develop your own properties. How did you get into the design part of it? Because you were in education.
Yeah, so I always wanted to be an interior designer from the time I was a kid. I remember faking sick to stay home to watch Trading Spaces. Yeah,
that's awesome.
So, and it's, my dad was a military man. He also was a social worker. Like, he believed in unions. So his advice was like, go into education, which was great advice coming from this generation. But I wanted to be an interior designer. So I just decided one day that I was going to invest in properties. And then when I got that first short-term rental, I was like, I'm going to design the hell out of this place.
Yeah.
That I at least have something that can show I can do it and it's a creative outlet for me. So then I started showing those pictures to my other clients about like, who are looking for STRs. And then they started asking me, well, can you help me design my place? So I did meet clients and then it just kind of spiraled from there. And then as I got bigger and bigger projects, I started networking with more interior designers here in the city. So a lot of interior designers will have like a certain set budget, you know what I mean? And they won't take projects less than that. So they'll send me the stuff that's less than that because that's kind of my niche, right? Like I can't do an unlimited budget. Yes, I have one of those right now, but what do I specialize in? Like making something look really good and functional at a lower price point. So yeah, it's been fun. It's been really, really fun. I get to do stuff all over. Like I do the Catskills. I've got a project in Long Island. I did one down in Miami. I've got one on Central Park West right now. So it's just wherever.
That's a nice spread of areas.
Yeah, I pretty much choose now based on the project and the client. Like if I like the client and I like the project, I'm in. I don't, I don't like one or the other of those, then I'm probably out.
Yeah, but as we talked about in the beginning, like the vibe for the design is going to be different coming from, upstate. And even upstate, there's different places. You can be that log cabin vibe or you can be like sleek modern. And those are two different things. But also when you're working for a client, you have to take into account, what do they want to get out of it? What's their style and how do I help them make their style better a lot of the time? And also, not over trended, as we said. You want it to be as timeless as possible and durable.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, how do you feel about the exterior amenities? Because a lot of, when you're doing interior design, you're making, the photos are going to look great, but a lot of what is helping short-term rentals go is, subtle exterior amenities, obviously getting bigger and bigger. But up where we are in the Catskills, you don't see as, there's not as many pools. There's almost no pickleball courts. There's not that huge jam. So the interior is really a pop, especially if you're on a hill or on the water. You have to get a little bit creative with the outside. But how do you feel like you have to balance that when you're looking at a project?
So it's interesting. I struggle with this. One of my properties has a hot tub, and I got the hot tub because everyone said you get the hot tub, people are going to book it. It's going to be booked solid. It'll be great. You'll be able to charge more, and I'm not entirely convinced that hot tub pays for itself between the heating, the cleaning, heaven forbid they can't use it for whatever reason.
Right.
Then you lose the booking or you get a really bad review. I don't know. I think that the main thing, at least in the area that we're in, is you need some sort of deck, some sort of outdoor fire pit, which is super cheap to do.
Yeah.
Ideally, you would have some sort of screened-in porch because in the summer it gets really buggy. But just keep it simple. People are going there for the woods, for the nature. Driveway is important, especially in the winter.
Yeah, pave it, man. Pave it, please. Stop with the rocks. I mean, you can't if you have a low car. A lot of these ones that you can't hit. I learned my lesson. Driving up there, I'm like, okay, I'm going to just drive an SUV each time. But yeah, I think those are really great points. I've seen a lot of creative solutions with outdoor dining rooms that are fully, screened in. It's just a separate room. And you can do that with a lot of different things out there because a lot of times if you're in the woodsy type areas, you're going to get a little bit extra acreage that somebody maybe hasn't cleared or done anything with. You can get super creative with what you put in there. And again, not spend a lot of money on it.
I think what's also challenging though with those places is you got to make sure that your cleaner maintains the outside area.
Yeah, that's a great point. I
struggle with that. The tables, the outdoor tables, the Adirondack chairs, all of those need to be wiped down. And say your cleaner comes on, Wednesday to clean and the place isn't going, they're not checking until Friday, right? You have 2 days of dirt that's coming down on those.
Yeah.
So it's very, very hard to maintain if you have too much outdoor situation going.
Yeah. The 5 tables outside and the silverware and stuff set up, it's not going to trend well over 3 days in some weather.
Outdoor tables look great in pictures, but
they're moldy when you get there every time and you don't want to touch them. Yeah, I go back and forth the same on the hot tub. I'd much rather have a small pool than a hot tub. I don't know why. I mean, I like hot tubs, but I feel weird in an STR. Just me personally as a guest, I'd rather have a sauna. I don't really want to get into a hot tub. I like them, but it's also I don't know. The funny thing about STR is though, a lot of it, you're shooting for the pictures that's going to get you more bookings, and they like that they could go in the hot tub, but they're not going to go in the hot tub. So it's
let me tell you.
Right. It's maybe it pays for itself and no use. Yeah, right. I've been going back and forth myself, looking up there. What I really want. And I think this is helpful for people who are looking for themselves or for something that they want to use, and STR, which is very popular up there. I've kind of decided that I need nature or like a full on view for it to be worth it for me. Just to get like back in the game. But I can see other plays. I love the close to town STR. I think those are killer if you can walk to a cool town, because not every town is cool up there. Some have the potential to be cool, but there's very few that have enough stuff to keep you busy. So if you can get into that, even like just little drive to town, not a crazy drive where your service is out on a back road and there's no lights, which is like classic moves upstate. So that's another option. So let's go through the rest of your journey though. What have been your favorite types of properties? I think you had a couple of multis also, or was that one was a multi? Yeah, let's go through that.
Yeah, so I have a fourplex, I have a duplex, I have a cabin, a cottage. I do, like, honestly, I have a variety of stuff.
Yeah, I feel like a good grab bag of stuff here. Yeah.
My next one that I'm manifesting this right now, so y'all are the first to hear it. I plan to buy some land up in New Hampshire and put like one of those globe glass globe houses on there, some stars. One that I would like to add, for some personal usage as well.
Yeah, I think like in Mountaindale, there's like a geodesic big dome and they do like yoga retreats in it. It just looks awesome. Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, but I think watching the trends is important, but also staying ahead of them and also feeling like, hey, this is your vibe. Like when you were talking about it, you're smiling. For people who are only listening, it's like, I can tell that's like what you want to do. And that's what I'm trying to help people more, because I'm looking at myself getting back into short-term rental after I did it, 20 years ago. I really want to like the property, as we've been saying. Even if I just go there a little bit, I just really want to be proud of it. I think that's an important thing. Even it doesn't have to look the best. It can look cool and quirky. And you just why do you want an asset that you're not proud of? Even if you're just proud of its production because you're running it really well. I mean, everybody doesn't have to be as, maybe aesthetic as we are, but don't you think that's an important thing, just to be able to hold it and just feel better about it?
Absolutely. Like, I like spending time stopping by my properties in between showings or that sort of a thing. Or, if a night's not booked, I'll take it, sort of a deal. But one thing I think that does help with kind of developing that relationship with your property, I guess, is to do some sort of projects on it yourself. Like learning how to, I don't know, even if it's like mechanical, you know what I mean? Like learning how to change the water filter, stuff like that. Yeah. The more that you do, the better you feel about it and the more you take ownership over it.
Yeah, and it gives you a better idea of how everything works when you do have that, oh no moment, so you don't know, hey, I got to call somebody else. You're going to save money over the long term if just like, hey, well, here's where the water shutoff is. I mean, most important thing that everybody needs to know, but.
Absolutely. Yeah. Or did you know that in these gas stoves, there's a battery usually?
A battery?
A battery that like helps with, I guess, the igniter. It has to be plugged in all the time, and there's a little battery that has to be switched out because that runs if it gets unplugged, and then it'll die.
Yeah.
So it's little things like these that you learn in those moments where you're like, oh my God, the heat's not working. What am I going to do? Yeah. And you're like, noted for the future. Okay, that's what you got to do.
Is your fourplex all long-term rent?
Yes. Yeah.
Nice. What time is that in Kingston?
It's in Kingston, in mid-city.
Yeah. Kingston's a really interesting area. How much have you seen that area develop over the last, since you bought your first property? It's so close to the city. You know what I mean? Like when we're talking upstate, a lot of the stuff is like so far out. And I'm always now amazed when I'm passing through Kingston. I'm like, I still have an hour to go. Like, this is crazy. Kingston's close. I was looking at I was going to go look at something in Ellenville a couple of weeks ago. I was texting about it. I'm like, this is really close. Like, this isn't far at all. And that's another attractive thing. And it's a cool town.
Yeah, definitely. Kingston changed a lot. Like, I bought my first rental property in 2016. So it's one of those things where that was before the pandemic. Obviously, when the pandemic hit, a lot of people moved up there. But at the same time, I think it's like anything. There's always certain areas that have come up a lot and other areas that probably aren't going to. So you just got to really be knowledgeable about the different neighborhoods and where you're buying and what your goals are.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's two different regulations depending if you're in the city and outside of the downtown for STR. But it's nice, like it's pretty interesting looking upstate New York where we work a lot because the price differential in towns can be crazy. Like you can have a 200,000 next to a million, no problem. Like it happens all the time and you're kind of looking at it. So, like from the realtor hat that we put on, we're like, yeah, you're the best in the neighborhood right now. Like all of these may get there, but you might be next to like just a regular, like nice looking trailer. You could be. So it's very interesting to like do the realtor dynamic versus the short term rental hat, what you can make versus what your true value really is. And I find it kind of fun.
Yeah. I will say this. I think comps are less useful up there than they are in like New York City.
So
and
hard.
I try to explain to like new buyers where they're like, well, I need to see some comps in order to make a decision. It's like
let me go back 5 years and go over 6 towns. Yeah.
Yeah, like it really is somewhat of a crapshoot. The main thing is like the condition of the house, right? So that's really going to determine where the value is. Is it turnkey or does it need a lot of work?
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, having that conversation and trying to compare stuff, it's really hard to do.
Yeah, and the appraisers will be in the same boat that we are looking for comps. So it's not like they're going to somehow pull comps that we don't know about. So they do have to compare things that are a little bit different and start to use calculations in a way. But yeah, I mean, you're not going into neighborhoods where every house is renovated. This is like you literally pass by all sorts of stuff on your way to look at properties up there. And one thing that I've said for people who maybe are thinking like, oh, I'll just be a remote investor. I've said that upstate New York is probably the worst place to try to do without seeing it, especially if like video, okay, but you could have a beautiful property and you could be next to a neighbor who just has, 14 cars on bricks outside. Maybe that's just their thing. But if you don't go up and see it, you're really not going to get the vibe. I've really found properties online where I'm like, oh, this looks so good. And you get to the street and you're like, oh, this is a 0 on STR, no curb appeal, like nothing, just terrible.
That's why it's been sitting so long.
Yeah, and a lot don't translate on Google Street View up there, so you can't see exactly what everything looks like. Something that just shows you like woods, and you're like, well, you're scrolling to try to find the house. I can't find it. Yeah.
I think the other thing that I noticed too is a lot of people want stuff off the road, but based on the history of our country in that area, like the houses were built on the road.
Yeah,
It used to be a perk because no one wanted something that was off the road.
Yeah.
The day of the horse and the buggy.
That's a good point.
Yeah. It's hard, especially like those stone homes that everyone loves. They always want a stone home that's set back. And it's like,
no, that's not how they were built. Yeah. Or even when they just see like Route 23C, they're like, oh, well, that's a main road. I'm like, have you ever driven Route 23C?
Yeah.
I'll drive for 30 minutes on it and there's not a single car that even passes me. You know what I mean? They're like, but it's a double yellow line. Yeah, but nobody's there, This is, for everybody listening, it's just about being understanding local to your market or where you want to invest. You got to take a trip there and see, especially if you want to be successful investing. You got to know the area a little bit more than just like throwing it out there to a real estate agent and hoping for the best.
And looking at it when you're there through the lens of the purpose that you're there for.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people will be like, well, I just don't like this because I would never live here. And it's like, again, this is common for up here. This is common for weekenders to deal with up here. So like if you're looking to rent to weekenders who are going to come up here, this works. You may not love that idea, but this is what is common.
Yeah, my favorite is someone who's like, yeah, I want to get something like a cabin in upstate, but I don't want any septic or well. I'm like, our conversation's complete.
Yeah,
like,
we're done.
Yeah, because where there's not that much of it where I live now, so it is interesting to get through and then have to learn, what things they're willing to accept and and educate them along the way. Like if you're that worried about it, maybe it's not for you, or maybe you need more learning. Again, go back to the meetups, which we've been saying every time, because then you'll be, oh yeah, septic's no problem. Like we pump it out and it's great. No, we never hear a thing about it.
Yep. Yeah.
So for new people getting into the game, say they were working a job like you were at the time that you started, very good, steady job, what you're going to get paid, but not a huge salary and not a huge scale on where it can go. How would you tell them to get started now in this market? Because your market was different then. The market's always changing. what's some advice other than what we've said about get to meetups right away that might help someone get off the fence and get into the game?
Yeah, I would say to expand their buy box, like really look at different options, and kind of take into consideration the fact that your first investment property may not be your dream investment property.
Yeah.
Like maybe you just start off with a small, working class 1-2 bedroom rental in a working class neighborhood. Maybe that's it,
Yeah.
and you're not using it on the weekends. It's not an STR, but it's something to get you going. Different areas, looking at different areas. Like maybe you really wanted to be in Kingston, but as you said, Ellenville is a great little town. It's got a really cute main street that's happening. So maybe it's relocating to one of those areas that you're still going to be able to rent out, but it's just not the first choice that you have. So being more flexible for sure, I think is important.
Yeah, I think it's just much safer to have an LTR as a first investment than an STR. It's steady. It always comes with some risk, but if you pick right and you do well by the tenant, it's just going to be like it was for you. Pretty steady mailbox money. You learn in the end, well, it's not that easy with property management, but at least you have something that's producing income outside of your regular job to show you that, hey, if I keep doing this, there's going to be more of that.
Oh. And what people don't realize is when you buy that first long-term rental, you go to buy another property, they're going to take 70% of that income from that long-term rental.
Yeah, good point.
That's your income so that you can then buy the next property.
Right, you're helping yourself.
I've had some people who are like, well, if I buy this, then I won't be able to buy something after. That's not how it works. You are increasing your revenue with this. So they take that into consideration.
Yeah, great points. Great. Good episode. I really appreciate it. Is the best place for people to find you at, it's MOAT interiordesigns.com, because I know it stands for Mac of all trades, but it's like not Moat. Yeah, Moat Interior Design. Yeah. Is that the best place for people to get in touch with you? And Instagram, Mac of all trades.
Yeah, I would say Instagram is probably the easiest, Mac of all trades NY for New York. And then moatinteriordesigns.com if you want to see some of my portfolio or if you want to reach out there. I also do put all my podcasts up there and any articles that I'm in, so you can get to know me a little bit better as well.
Yeah, I like looking through your projects on the design side. I think it gives like a real insight into what you do. And I think it's also like aspirational for people who are getting into it, because a lot of people who are getting their first rental, they want to do a little bit of design so they can also take it, get some inspiration. And I looked, so you have services that can help people where you're just kind of helping them along. Then you have your full service. So just tell us about that before we hop off.
A few different packages. The basic one being just like an hour consultation. I'll come, or we can FaceTime in and I'll tell you what I would do if it were my place. Then I have the next one, which is like a virtual package. So I essentially give you what I would do. And then I also give you mood boards and a shopping list.
Nice.
And then you have at it. Then I have like a partnership one where it's like literally I can help you do it. I'm not going to execute the whole project, but like I'll give you all the designs and then I'll come a couple of days. We'll do some install, that sort of stuff. And then there's the full service of like, you want nothing to do with it.
Yeah, right.
Take it from start to finish. So it varies, like I can mix and match depending upon the client and what they want. My overall goal throughout all of this, of course, is to teach, right? Like if I want you to be able to learn how to design your own spaces, but also how to run your own business too. So I think a lot of these things overlap when you work with me that I'm pretty sure like not most designers do.
Spoken as a true educator.
Old habits die hard.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
All right. That was Mackenzie Grate. Again, you can find her at moatinteriordesigns.com. That's MOAT, or on Instagram at Mac of all trades NY. I'm Jonathan Green. We'll see you next episode. Thanks for sticking around to the end so you can get a preview of who's coming up on episode 297 of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing. And it's a return guest, Gino Barbero. You formerly knew him from Jake and Gino, a huge multifamily community, but now he's got something else cooking. Barbero 360, build a stronger connected family. So we talk a lot about real estate and we talk a lot about family and legacy and how to get there. Next episode with Gino.